Radio, Raheem here with Eddie Hearn. Matchroom has put on yet another historic night in boxing, and Tony Bellew brought everything that any fan could possibly want him to bring in his stated last fight. It was an emotional atmosphere in the arena, not just for Tony, but it felt like the audience had a moment, and you had a moment as well. Talk to me about when that bell rung and you knew it was done. What were you feeling about your time with Tony Bellew and his time in the sport?
Just very proud of him, you know. You know him, probably one of the nicest guys you could meet. Like, from a personal point of view, would do anything for you. I would trust him with everything. Like Dave said, I feel the same. One of the first people probably I'd call, like, outside of my family. He was complimentary about us, but he's been good to me. You know, like, when we first started boxing, I wasn't the main promoter when he signed with me. You know, he chose us, he believed in us, and we've delivered for him, and he's delivered for us. And without him being so good at what he does, he wouldn't have achieved this. You know, it's all very well saying, oh, thanks, mate, for this and that. No, you went in there, mate, and you won these fights. You knocked out Makabu at Goodison Park, you beat David Haye twice. You were winning the fight against Usyk after 7 rounds. And no one expected that. But tonight, I was just a fan of Bellew as a fighter, because I was watching this guy who I've watched over the years be European level and sort of world level, be probably, well, definitely the second best cruiserweight in the world, and matching Usyk or beating Usyk, you know, and it got on top and it got high maintenance, and Usyk cut him off and closed him off and beat him. But it was a great fight, and it was competitive, and that's my mate. You know, that's someone who I never expected to do that. So I'm very proud of him. And I'm more, it's always hard when there's someone you care about, when you see them devastated and upset. And that's what got to me in the ring, because he was crying, and he doesn't want to go out like this. But the other way is to not take that challenge, always regret it, and probably be labelled, although he's not overly bothered about that, like that you swerved the challenge. Do you know what I mean? So the respect that he'll get for taking that fight and the performance in the fight from the public is probably more respect than he's had from his whole career of what he's achieved. That's what they will remember and go, you were the guy who didn't have to, did you? But you boxed Usyk and you were winning that fight, and you boxed for the Undisputed Championship, and you know what? You got tired and you basically decided to have a go, and you got knocked out trying, and it was a horrific knockdown, and you know what? You still scrambled to your knees and got up, didn't you? Do you know what I mean? That's how he should be remembered, and that's the greatest closure you can receive as a fighter. It's very difficult for fighters when they finish their career. You know, very few fighters leave the sport happy.
Right.
And although he's not happy right now, he will be. And yes, he's financially secure, but better than that. Like, in life, there's nothing better than being content. Right? How many people are not content with their life? 99% of them, 98% of them. You know, I'm not earning enough money. Oh, I'm too fat. Oh, I don't feel great. Oh, I haven't got a girlfriend. Oh, you know what I mean? I don't like my job. Like, so to leave boxing and for him to go, do you know what? What a great career I've had. Made me money, won my titles, tried to be great, fought the best. Thank you, boxing. And to smile at it rather than feel a regret, you know, and that's nice. And that beats any amount of money. You know, give me a guy in a 1-bedroom house with his wife and kids, working every day to pay the bills, but blissfully happy, against a miserable old geezer in a 20-bedroom mansion with a couple of $1 billion, but lonely and sad. You know? That's called content, and he's content, and that makes me happier than anything, that he will be content to walk away and go, thank you, boxing. You know, you've been good to me. We've had some great memories, and that's ultimately how it'll be left. And he says he'll disappear. We'll see. He definitely won't fight again, but we'll see. He's a great boxing brain. He's an excellent pundit, and I would love him involved in the career of our young fighters as a role model and someone that can tell them. Like he said, how many fighters have more talent than him? But are they actually saying that? I'm not even sure about that anymore.
Right.
You know, like he's improved so much. But how many people have more talent than him and achieve nothing?
Well, content is something that he's left the boxing world. I'm certain of it. Everyone in here respected his career and his final fight. This may have even been his greatest performance of his career. But the only person in any arena that's never allowed to leave content is the promoter, because there's always other fighters, there's always other matchups that you have to make in other people's interests. And having Usyk under your umbrella as well as Bellew, obviously you've got to now transition into Usyk's career, which is a hell of a launch here in the UK. It would stand to reason that a unified, undisputed champion has only fought now 16 times at cruiserweight, would campaign there, would hold those titles and be able to make money and noise here in the UK as the cruiserweight king. He's clearly stated he doesn't want that. Do you think that that's what's best? Or is jumping into these heavyweight...
I think he's done. What more can you do? You know, tell me another fight out there at cruiserweight that is appealing. You know, it's a bit like Lomachenko. You're almost going to have to handicap these guys to make things competitive or to get them beat. And he'll be handicapped when he moves up with the big boys. Because of the size, he'll be outsized. But can he handle the size with the skill? That'll be the challenge for Usyk. But he's very bright in what he says. You know, this is not a game. Like, you don't just go, yeah, let's go to heavyweight and just dive in and make mistakes. You take the right fights to learn, to set you up for a Joshua fight. Joshua is heavy, heavy duty for Oleksandr Usyk, trust me. Like, don't get me wrong, technically, there isn't many fighters in the world that can match up to Usyk. But this heavyweight game is a different kettle of fish when they're 17, 18 stone, mate, and they're raining down shots with speed. But it's going to be fun watching him. And one day, Usyk against Joshua will be a massive fight. And it's my job to see if that fight makes sense for both fighters. Joshua loves the idea already because he wants to test himself against the best. And, you know, I'm excited for Oleksandr Usyk's future. Another great man, to be honest. I mean, I don't know him anywhere near as well as Tony, but listen to him. A man of faith, you know, a man of simplistic nature, who, when asked if his dream was to be the heavyweight world champion, he said no, his dream was for people to respect each other. I mean, what a line. You know, I mean, I thought, if that come from me, that would be bullshit. But that's from him. That's authentic. That's from the heart. And do you know what? This whole experience, I'm in awe of both men, as fighters. Like, it's been a great experience, and I'd say it gives me a lot of happiness and hope for boxing. Because what I saw tonight was probably like some of the most elite fighting up close, like being there, that I've seen live, like over the years. It was so high level, wasn't it? You know, like, and that's just brilliant to watch. And also that Usyk is like a hardcore guy's fighter. Now that he's coming into the mass market, people would have seen it, and it's good that'll educate people about boxing because of how good he is technically, you know, rather than just crash, bang, wallop.
It begs the question, because people are so distrustful of promoters, and to some degree for good reason, in that sometimes interests conflict. You have more than one fighter in a division, and you have many in many divisions. If Usyk, who is as capable as he is, as talented as he's shown, is able to challenge and beat guys at heavyweight, and Joshua is unarguably the biggest moneymaker you have at heavyweight, the biggest moneymaker at heavyweight, period, are you able to make those two pieces fit? And what I mean is, can you make, in Usyk's best interest, which he feels is to rush to Joshua, which might not be in his best interest.
I mean, he made it pretty clear that was not what he wants now. You know, he said, no, we need time for that fight. He's not silly. You know, he knows, he may feel he's technically better than Joshua, but Joshua is a beast. Right. And he knows he has to work his way there. When you ask me if I can make an inter-stable fight, of course. But it's got to work for everybody. You know, what Usyk would want for that fight has to be agreeable to what Joshua wants, and everything's got to marry together. It's only like Brooke Khan.
Right.
You know, he wants a weight penalty. He don't want one. He wants a bigger split. He doesn't want. It's just marrying it all together. But always, if they want, it's like Usyk Bellew. They just wanted the fight, you know, and it came together quickly. So if Joshua wants to fight Usyk and he feels the deal is right, and vice versa, it will happen. If they don't want to fight each other or they don't feel the deal is right, it won't happen. But a lot of the time, when you talk about promoters and evil promoters, stuff like that, it's not really up to us. Like, I can't say to Joshua, you're fighting Usyk, and that's the deal, shout out. Usyk, do as you're told, you're fighting him. Off you go. This isn't the UFC, you know? So it's not always that easy. Fighters have got to agree to it, but I know Joshua will always want to fight the best, and I believe Usyk will be one of the best at heavyweight.
Everyone's debating whether or not it'll be Wilder on the 13th. With Joshua waiting to determine who that opponent is, what are the most important elements to him making that decision? Obviously, you've got other guys in your stable coming up on December 22nd. You've got other fights you can make. What is it that is the primary focus or the most important aspect of that fight on April 13th for Anthony Joshua?
For it to be Deontay Wilder. That is the only thing we want. The only thing we want. We need to know if it's not Wilder, we want a deal in place with Dillian going into that fight, that if he wins April 13th, he fights Joshua. If it's not Wilder. So when we talk about deadlines, for Wilder, I don't know, not long after his fight, and that's why I want to start the conversations now and see if we can make some progress, some inroads, so that after December 1, I mean, he may lose, I don't know, and then Fury will have a rematch clause, and then we'll probably just fight Dillian White anyway. Might fight Dillian White, then Usyk, I don't know. Everything's in play, but once again, the sole focus for Joshua is to fight Wilder. And look, whatever you think of me, that was an undisputed fight. That was probably, as a promoter, and Joshua Klitschko's, but the proudest moment of my career, putting that on, because I'm a fan. I love boxing. Undisputed is everything, isn't it? It's, and you don't think that I want my heavyweight, who I've worked with from the debut, to become the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Even from an ego perspective, an arrogance perspective, a big-headed perspective, I want that. I want to have that unified, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I'll go down in history as well. I want to go down in history.
You keep saying Wilder, we want to talk now to Wilder, but Fury doesn't come up in that way.
No, because he'll have a rematch clause. So we're up for fighting Fury if he wins.
But do you think he wins? I mean,
no, I don't. I think it's going to be a terrible fight, and I think he's going to stink the place out. He may even win the first couple of rounds, but I do think he'll get knocked out. And listen, there's nothing against him. I absolutely admire Tyson Fury for what he has done. You know, we talk about content and stuff like that. This is a guy who had his major problems and has completely turned his life around. And I have utmost respect for him. He's not match sharp. He's not match fit. And I think Wilder hits too hard. And I think he'll cut him off at some point. Don't get me wrong. Fury's going to frustrate him, grab him, hold him, spin him, push him away, do it again. And he may be like behind after a couple of rounds. But I think eventually he'll get hold of him. And when he does, I think he'll win the fight.
Radio Raheem with Eddie Hearn here at the Manchester Arena on a historic night in boxing. Tony Bellew goes down, but not out. Boxing is out of his life, but we are still in boxing.
We are.
So I'll see you here in a few weeks.
Cheers, mate.
Radio Raheem with Eddie Hearn.